What's up, levelers? Welcome back to another episode of High Level Chronicles, where we dive deep into the worlds of gaming, cannabis, and everything in between. I'm your host, Chris, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the one and only Paul. What's happening, brother?
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to summer.
Hey, it's hot as hell out. But, today we've got a special episode lined up for you levelers. We're going to peel back the curtains a little bit on our own lives and share our journeys from video game enthusiasts, when we first got into gaming, to the cannabis connoisseurs we are now. See what take that word, I'll take it. But how we managed to carve out that, along with our professional careers, while still making time, to wind down with our favorite pastimes, gaming, cannabis. We all started somewhere with it, right? We're going to give you that story today. So whether you're here for gaming information, cannabis insights, some good old-fashioned banner, we've got you covered. But first, let's kick things off with everyone's favorite segment, Leveled Up. Let us know what you've been leveling up on, whether it's video game, cannabis strain, maybe your favorite movie or TV show, whatever it may be. Hit us up on our website, highlevelchronicles.com, or social media at HLC Podcast 420. I'll tell you what, man, I'll kick it off this week. Me and the wife, we just finished that Unlocked series that I talked about in the last previous episode. Mm-hmm. So, great show. I'm excited to see if they do another season, because it ended on a cliffhanger, so to speak, because it ended with the sheriff going into another ward, not the H ward, but another ward. And all the prisoners, all you saw was, just nothing. But you saw him walk in and he said, "Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you all about something." So he's going to do it with them. He's going to give this ward a shot now. So it leads me to believe they're going to try it again. They're going to, go for another season. Hopefully. It was a great show. My wife loved it. And it really was a well thought out show, because at the end it went through and all the felons and everybody that were in there, they gave updates on them and where they were. Some of them were out. Some of them, and all of them that were out had bettered themselves through this program, and they were out free now and doing stuff. And others just, started helping new inmates out, to be mentors and stuff. So it really was a good program for that group. And so, yeah. And it also didn't, hurt at all to have some London Kush on deck while we were watching it, chilling out, relaxing. I really come to love that London Kush. I get that from Sugar Hemp Farms. And I don't really tell a lot of people that, but I'm going to give it away today, because they're really starting to light some stuff up. But they're out of North Carolina. Got some good stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. What about you, bro? What have you been leveling up? What's been going on?
A couple things. So, big Disney Plus week for me. I started watched the X-Men 97 series. So I don't know if you watched them back in the day, like in the 90s, but I guess 97 is when they left.
Cartoon, right?
Yeah. It's animated. And this year they started with 10 more episodes of picking up 20 years later. And feel fine, but I guess not too much after their time. So like whatever, I guess Charles Xavier's dead and how to go on without him, things like that. So that's been pretty interesting. And then started the new.
So let me ask real quick about that X-Men stuff. Is that something you watch alone, or is your wife into that too? Or what? How's that work? No.
I had a couple days off work. And
so that's
what I had on.
Okay. I was like, my wife would not be watching that shit. I saw something like I'd really like to watch. I used to love the X-Men comics. I collected comics back in the day when I was a kid. So I had a lot of the first editions before I knew they'd be worth anything, didn't really care. So yeah, I love the X-Men series.
I don't even remember what channel they were on, but I remember Saturday morning cartoons. Are you excited
for Deadpool and Wolverine?
Dude.
You like Deadpool and Wolverine?
Yeah.
That's going to be...
Oh, that's something I'm really looking forward to. I think in a month or two it comes out, or pretty soon.
Yeah,
sometime in the summer.
We haven't had a chance to see it yet, but we're going to go see Bad Boys this Tuesday, I think.
Oh,
nice. Are you into the Bad Boys movies? Do you like those? To Will Smith?
I think I've seen one.
What?
But, yeah.
Oh, dude.
I know. I've been up to like 5 now or something. So
yeah, and this new one's really supposed to set a new series, so to speak, is what they say with Reggie. I'm excited to see what happens. Reggie's one of the ones. Did you watch the one where they were in Miami? Did you ever see that one?
It was so long ago, I couldn't even tell you.
The dude came to the door. You probably had to have seen the memes where they come to the door and he's like, the guy knocks on the door. He's like, "Hey, I'm here to pick up your daughter." And he's like, how old is you? And they play this whole thing acting like they're drunk and we're prison and like, take care of you in prison. And so it was
That
a whole
does
bit,
ring a
but now
bell,
that
yeah.
guy's grown up. Anyway, didn't mean
Yeah.
to take us off track. So you keep going.
Yeah. And Disney has a new Star Wars series 100 years before. So I don't know. I watched the first couple episodes of that. Yeah, it's okay. It's interesting enough to be like, all right, well, what happened next? So I guess that it does grab you a little bit, but I know they make so many of those. Some are amazing and some are not great at all. So
Right.
So the jury's still out. There's only a few episodes at this point. I think they're out every Friday or Saturday or something. So I don't know. Keep you updated on that to see how well that goes. And then gaming wise, trying to get my wife into game. She said she may be interested in, I guess we'll stay with Disney's Dreamlight Valley.
Dreamlight Valley.
That is there's something wrong in the Disney kingdom. There's a bunch of Disney characters. And you have to like save the kingdom. And so I was like, hey, if you really want this, like we'll get it. We'll get like, the gold edition or whatever. But like, is that something you want to play? And she's like, I just think so. It's just really hard for her to get into games. And so I was like, do you want me to play like for a little bit and maybe show you some of the things that may not be intuitive to you? And she's like, yeah. So I played it for maybe half hour and I was like, oh, like here are some things that when you start you can do. So we'll see if she gets into that.
Okay. The only game my wife will play is Mario Kart. She plays Mario Kart. That's it. She loves Mario Kart, but she only plays when she can play with people. She won't play. She doesn't get on and play by herself. You know what I mean? Like against the AI or computer, whatever. If it's friends or family. So that's the only thing she'll play.
Same. So she's like, I see how much joy you get out of that, and I want that. But she didn't grow up with any like gaming systems or consoles or.
Man, we're gonna talk about that today.
So yeah. So her and I come from a very different family situation in terms of gaming and stuff, and relaxing with some berry edibles that are just
still on those berry edibles.
Enough.
Huh?
Yeah. But we also have some messages from our audience of how they're leveling up. So first we have Daniel M says, hey guys, this week I've been enjoying some Blue Dream while playing The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's been an otherworldly adventure, especially while high AF. Daniel, you think Breath of the Wild's great? Check out Tears of the Kingdom X. It's even trippier. Nastier Ben _U 24/7 says, what's up, bros? I've been leveling up on some Girl Scout cookies and slaying demons in the Doom Eternal series. Talk about an intense experience. If you can think you can handle some, then join me. I don't have the Doom, but I've heard that the new one, or new ones are fantastic.
I haven't played Doom in forever. Like, CD-ROM, I guess. CD-ROM, Doom. Oh, man.
And then last, not least, we have Jesse H. says, hey, guys, I've been toting out some Pineapple Express and leveling up in Animal Crossing New Horizons. It's my happy place after a long day at work.
Mobile game? Is it a mobile game?
Animal Crossing? No, that is a Switch game.
Animal Crossing.
The New Horizons is the Switch one that came out maybe 2 years ago, and follow up from the N60 GameCube Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I never had a GameCube.
That was one that my wife tried to get into too, and she's like, "Oh, I liked it for the first 10 minutes," and she's like, "I just didn't really get it." So it's like, all right, just try new things.
Well, sounds like some great times were had by our levelers. So if you all want to be featured on the next episode, just leave your comments on our social media. Hit us up on our website. But for now, let's jump into today's adventure. We're going to be giving you all a little background info on us, your host, and how we got into cannabis, gaming, this podcast, whatever. But what do you say, Paul? You ready to take a journey down this road?
Yeah, absolutely. I talk about gaming first and sort
Yeah,
of the journey there. I know you started a little earlier than I did, but I can remember my first sort of like foray into gaming as a child was probably when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old. My dad is an engineer. He's always trying to get like the latest technology. So this is, the mid 90s. I'm starting school and he's like, oh, you should get some educational games. So some of my first memories of playing a game on the PC was the Carmen San Diego games. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego?
Shit.
Where in time is Carmen San Diego? And the game is an educational game. Like I learned about countries that like I really most don't
Absolutely.
know what Iran is or where it is. But I'm like, oh no, it's over here. Like, and I know like the shape of things. But again, sort of like what we talked about before is with some of these educational games, the point isn't to realize you're learning, and that fun from the learning aspect is the gamification of, I guess, with Carmen San Diego, whether like geography or history, social studies type things.
It was kind of a mix of history and geography and, all that general stuff, In a way, I remember Carmen San Diego.
Yeah.
I showed my wife the other day. She had no idea what it was. Never seen it. I was like, you missed
Did you ever watch the show?
Carmen San Diego. Yep. Yeah. That's what I showed her was the show.
Yeah.
And she didn't even remember
the
it.
Rockapella.
Yep.
5 men and like 7 different haircuts. They were a bunch. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? No, that's a good time. During the pandemic, we were watching that a little bit. We're like, I don't know. You ever watch Carmen San Diego back from like 1994? Like, let's check it out.
Yeah, I think my first. I think everybody knows. I think in one of the very first episodes I talked about, I found my uncle's Atari. It was like one of the first gaming experiences I had. I played Pong on that Atari, and that.
Oh, so like the OG of OGs, like
right? It was Pong, and he had it in it was like a brown case. You know what I'm saying? He flipped it up, pulled it out, shit. But the NES was my first system. So Mario, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Contra, Mega Man, RC Pro Am, The Legend of Zelda. But I'll tell you what, my favorite game on the NES, really, I think, one of the favorites that is a lot of people leave out was a game called Paperboy. Man, I had a blast playing Paperboy, bro. Jumping over sticks and dodging cars and shit and delivering papers on the street. But, at the same time, we were playing Oregon Trail on the computers in school to learn and do things.
Learned what dysentery was.
So we're talking, we're talking, 87, 80, but around 89 or 90, I got the Sega Genesis and played the hell out of Mortal Kombat. That was one of my favorites. Sonic, Golden Axe. I loved Golden Axe, bro. Streets of Rage, Earthworm Jim.
Earthworm
Jim. That was, the Sega. And around that same time, I think, is when the Game Boy came out. Around that same time. So, I had the Game Boy. Remember, you had the Pokemon game.
Yeah. Well, that was one of my biggest things, too. Yeah. So from 96, I think, is when Pokemon came out on the Game Boy. And I would take that everywhere.
Which was 5 years after the Game Boy came out, roughly, I think. I think the Game Boy came out around 91 or so. Because you were playing Pokemon on the Game Boy. I was playing, of course, Tetris. Everybody was playing Tetris on the Game Boy, but tennis and Gargoyle's Quest. Did you ever play Gargoyle's Quest on the Game Boy? Metroid. Games on the go with you.
I know of Metroid, and
if you had a Game Boy back then, that was a flex. That was a flex. If you had a Game Boy, taking your games on the go, you take that thing everywhere.
You got the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Pocket. Like I had like at first the bulky gray, I guess original Game Boy.
And that's what I had.
Yeah. Eventually, I got slimmer.
You remember the Game Boy Light? The light you could plug into the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Because there was no lights for that shit. There was. You didn't have a light. You had to have a little light.
A little $15 or something.
They were like, what do you call that? They were like clear. They were clear plastic. Like they had colors, and there are different colors and stuff too you can get. Yeah, that was crazy with the Game Boy.
Play that along. beam rides or long rides home, and then the sun would dip. And it was like,
Oh, the batteries would
I
die.
were, well,
Oh,
this didn't get
batteries.
dark, and God forbid you
Yep.
ever put the down light on in the car. Come down.
You'll get pulled over by the cops. Can't have that. That's illegal. If you can't have the dome light on, you get pulled over by the police. They
I
always
never
told me.
yelled at my parents. Don't ever do that. But,
And around the same time the Game Boy came out was when the Super Nintendo came out. And
yeah.
I didn't have it. I didn't have a Super Nintendo, but my cousins did. And I would always be there when my parents had to like do shit or whatever they were doing at the time. I don't know. I was a kid. I don't remember. But I played the hell out of the Super Nintendo, especially Super Mario World and Donkey Kong. That was like the two games.
Donkey Kong Country, man. That was
Donkey Kong Country.
That was the big Super Nintendo game.
That, so you would have had 90, so around 90. I don't know. But right after that, after all that, the Super Nintendo, so I guess mid 90s, Sega CD came out. And I had the Sega CD. You had Sonic CD, Terminator. That was a fun game. Final Fight CD. That was, it had some decent titles, but it was short lived. It didn't take off like.
So do you not consider yourself kind of like loyal to a system? Like I know there's like Nintendo people, there's Xbox people, there's PlayStation.
In life, I have that story as we go on. And I'm not at that point yet because I had I'm talking mid-90s, so the PlayStation hadn't even came out yet. PlayStation released in 95, PlayStation 1. And that's the next system I got after Sega CD. So that was 4 or 5 years later. So I got the PS1, and that was like 95 or so, like I said. So now I'm playing, Crash Bandicoot, Gran Turismo, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 was on that. Tekken, Resident Evil, And after the PlayStation, though, so it wasn't like you're talking not between PlayStation and Nintendo. So after the PlayStation was when the N64 came out. And that was like 97, maybe 96, 97, I think. And that same time, at that point in time, I didn't have a Nintendo 64. I had a PlayStation. I never bought the Nintendo 64 until probably a couple of years after it was out. So let's just say 9. Right. But in 96, 97, my buddy had a Nintendo 64. And I went over to his house, and that was my introduction to cannabis. Because he said we were over there, nobody was home, and he's like, "Hey man," he had an older brother. I didn't have any brothers, his sister was with me, so he had an older brother. He said, "Hey man, you ever smoked weed before?" And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" And he's like, "I got some." And I'm like, "Okay, what?" And he said, "Well, my brother." So he went up to his brother's room, and like his brother's like in this little chest thing, he had a lock and everything on it. Dude, he had the brownest, dirtiest weed ever in his bag. And we didn't know what to do. And he said, "Well, I saw my brother do this." And we took literally a Coca-Cola can and dented it in and took a thumbtack and poked some holes into it. Made us a little bowl out of it. That was our first time. And my first time. That got me into that. But we were playing Nintendo 64 at his house, and we were, of course, playing like GoldenEye and 007, shit like that.
Yeah.
And that was like my favorite game. So I ended up buying the Nintendo 64 just for GoldenEye because that's what everybody was playing.
Oh, I'm sure you're not the only one. And yes,
it was that. Diddy Kong Racing. Do you remember Diddy Kong Racing?
So
and F-Zero X and the GoldenEye. That was around the same time. Like I said, it was GoldenEye. I associate that with around the same time I started smoking weed for the first time.
Right. So I was like 8 when I got an N64, and so wasn't partaking too much of the weed scene in elementary school. But yeah, that was
I wouldn't expect that.
Yeah. That was around the first time. But like 9, 10, 11, 12, into middle school, was a lot of Super Smash Bros, Mario Kart 64. There was like Star Fox things, games they had, and that was the first time that I was like, "Oh, like this is a lot more fun if I bring in other people, if I bring in my friends." And so I had like a lot of like sleepovers and just like, "Oh, like hey, you want to come play Blitz?" Blitz was like a big football game that was like a lot of late hits and stuff, a lot of fun.
I remember Blitz.
Yeah, Blitz, and then the lesser known NHL version, AHL Hits, Like that was for the GameCube though, but yeah, it was like because before, like, I know you don't play the Game Boy with a lot of people. I mean, my sister had Pokemon too, trade, and that was fun. But like, sitting with like bringing like the togetherness that gaming can do, um, was around the first time I was like, oh, like, I like seeing my friends, I like gaming, let's put it together. And then that really just led to online gaming, to starting getting into some of the real-time strategy games like StarCraft and Warcraft, um, Age of Empires, things that you could do on a PC that, right, maybe your friend's not like with you, but you're playing over the internet, and that really took out where it's like, oh, I don't even need to see my friend. They're, maybe they moved away or something, but I can still remain close through whatever games we play, and that's how I like maintain some of my relationships into college, into my 20s. Um, was by gaming, essentially.
But look at that. So to get back to your question about the console wars, so to speak, or whatever you want to call it, about console preference, loyal to one or the other. Around the 2000s when it hit, I'm playing PlayStation 2 because I had a PlayStation 1, and the Xbox came out. And now the entire gaming community is literally fighting over which console is better, right? The Xbox, PlayStation 2. But is it the PS2? Is it the Xbox? I mean, I was a PlayStation guy. So I'll refrain from saying what I actually want to say. But yeah, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 and 4, Grand Theft Auto, San Andreas, Madden's, the NCAA's, God of War. I mean, the game choices were endless to fit anything you were playing for. But for me, with the online part that you just talked about, it was around 2002. I remember this one single game changed the future of gaming and everything for me. And that was SOCOM, U.S. Navy SEALs. It came out. It was my first online multiplayer experience. It completely blew my mind to the point that I was literally calling off of work just to play the game with people that I met online because they were off at that point in time. And it was also the exact first game that I ever learned about glitches. So there were maps on SOCOM that you could like lay prone on the edge of top of a building and then reload your gun at the same time or make some other type of movement, whatever it was, and it would like drop you into the wall, glitch you into it. Nobody could shoot you, but you could shoot everybody. And back then, you couldn't report people back then. It wasn't a thing. So there was, everybody was doing it. There was no way to report people whatsoever. So it was happening nonstop. But like I said, around that same time frame, the early 2000s, between the time I had first smoked weed in like 96, 97, until then, I really didn't smoke. You know what I mean? I wasn't a regular smoker. I just ran it like around a friend that maybe had it or a house party or something. But it was around the same time frame, early 2000s, though, was when I became a firefighter and paramedic. And I stopped smoking cannabis for sure, like completely at that point because there was too much liability back then.
Right.
Get caught on the job, if there was a freak accident or an injury or whatever, I was fucked.
Right.
Moving into the mid 2000s, PlayStation 3, I think, and Xbox 360 came out. This is the point in my life where I said, okay, maybe I want to be an Xbox guy, right? I'm going to go to Xbox. But I bought the Xbox 360 for the sole reason to play Rainbow Six Vegas with some friends. Love the game, but the 360 had some major fucking issues back then. Red Ring of Death. Everybody remembers.
That's what I heard. I never had
Red
an
Ring of
Xbox,
Death.
but I heard about it.
So
that was
after replacing 3 fucking Xboxes within a year, I went back to PS3 and back to PlayStation it was. So that threw me from Xbox. And I never, we're talking, that's like what, 2010s, when PlayStation 3 and Xbox and stuff. So we're talking like through that time period, I was always PlayStation 3. And all the way up until the new ones came out, the Xbox X and the PlayStation 5 now, whatever. I was PlayStation 4, whatever it is now. Dude, I couldn't get one. They were so short, so I ended up getting an Xbox X. didn't really like it. I was just like, I mean, it is what it is. It's not that I don't like it. I have it. It's in there. It's nice to have, but I switched to PC gaming, so,
Well, that was
but
my big thing. Where after the GameCube was the Wii, because I'm a Nintendo guy. I don't know why. It's just sort of how I started. It was something I was comfortable with. You don't get a lot of those first-person shooter games, or a lot of the sports games. Like I played Madden a bunch, but I know that was more commonly seen on like an Xbox or PS5. The Wii was fun in its own way of, with the sports package and the novelty of like you're actually moving, you're bowling, and your me is doing that on the screen. And that was like fun for a little bit. Um until like the novelty kind of wore out. But that between like 2000 like 10 to 2018, I didn't really have a console. I kind of was just PC the entire time. And so that's when I started to get on Steam and Discord, and a lot of my friends were doing the same thing too. Like they might have like a PS4, PS5 during that time. But I just, yeah, maybe fire up an N64 or a GameCube, like for some retro gaming with friends, but that was pretty rare. And until the Switch came around, and I was like, oh, it's sort of like a hybrid Game Boy, but also a console that you can project on the TV. I was like, that's kind of a cool idea, and I'm pretty happy now. I don't know, 6 years I think I had it. I think they're coming out with a new Nintendo Switch in the next couple of years, and which I'll probably get. But that sort of brought me back to console gaming, um, after I'd been just pretty straight PC or so.
like I said, man, I had the PS3 and then I had the PS4. I didn't play a lot of PS4, really, a lot of it, because at that point in time, I was still, focusing on my career and what I wanted to do in life, where I was going to go, what I was going to be, whatever. But I was still that firefighter paramedic, that's what I was doing. And, that was like what The Last of Us is still, in my opinion, one of the best game stories I've played on PS4. And I played, here and there on the PlayStation 4. I had it, but I just didn't really play because at the same point in time in my life, I was starting, my life was changing. I was getting older. I was DJing clubs, weddings, events, whatever it may be in the Morgantown area at that point in time, all around to make up essentially for the lack of income that firefighter and paramedics made because you make shit. So that same time frame too, while I wasn't playing a lot, I became the president of a motorcycle club, and that's a whole show in itself. There was definitely some cannabis use mixed in that time frame. Still wasn't smoking a whole lot, not regularly or anything, right? You know what I mean? But I did end up, during that time, I bought a strip club at the same time, making the strip club the motorcycle clubhouse as well. So that whole time frame, I wasn't gaming, but I had, cannabis at, like my 30th birthday party. I had a big old party at the strip club that, I owned it. I had a rapper perform at the club that, I was friends with at the time. His name was Anomaly. And now flash forward today, he's, dare I say, I guess, this huge influencer or political influencer living in California now, still going by Anomaly, but he has long hair. He didn't have long hair back then, a beard and everything. So, still going by Anomaly for his new shit. So people may know him for who he is now, but I knew Anomaly for his musical skills. And so, yeah, we had some wild times, man, between 2008, 2014, before I took a new job. I got out of the firefighter medical field just for the pay mainly and took a government contracting position, which still didn't allow me enough time to play anything at the first start of that. But we started to be able to play more because we were allowed to play while we were in the office. Because unless we were on the road traveling, which was 9 months out of the year, we were allowed to we just had to be in the building on site. We didn't have anything to do. But we traveled 9 months out of the year. That's when we worked. And so during the day, we just had to be on site for the government to give them the money as contractors. So we used to just play PlayStation 4 all day. So that's where the Call of Duty got into me. That was the time of Call of Duty. We all had battles in there through all that. So I was a big Call of Duty freak from like 2011 to 2013. We really were into the Call of Duty. And then I took a promotion and moved to Nevada and left all that behind. Club, the motorcycle club, strip club, everything. Left it behind. And then that same job took me to Maryland, where I am now. So, that brought me here in 2014. So, when it comes to cannabis again, with this, like I mentioned, I was really only smoking here and there, maybe like a birthday party, a club event, something like that. So from 2003 to 2021, I wasn't really a cannabis user, so to speak, right? Until it was suggested for my wife to get a medical cannabis card for her health issues at the time. And that's what really got me back into cannabis again. Now, of course, I'm PC games.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then, so
we kind of have a similar story. We kind of went away from games back to it, But
yeah, I don't know how big you are into board games, but that is another passion that I started to develop. I think I have a friend of mine. He's a firefighter paramedic. Shout out to Rob. But has about
nice.
I don't know 200 different board games, and is always getting more. And so prior to the pandemic, like 2018-19, every other weekend we'd be at somebody's house playing hours of these like complex board games. And then I remember it was St. Patrick's Day weekend, and it was prior to, I think it fell on like a Thursday or something. So it was prior, and I was just seeing people out hearing about this COVID thing. And then that week I had taken off work, and I was at some guy's house in Annapolis. There's parties at like other houses you can see in the area. And then I took off work on a Thursday, got very high, and was sort of watching the news. And every time I would flip back to it, it's like, oh, something else is closed. I don't know, the world was ending. It was wild. And then we started to get on this thing called Tabletop Simulator. And there's a lot of board games that you can now play online. And it's either with the simulator where like somebody codes a program into it, or like the games themselves are like, hey, we have a digital version. And then like all the cards, it's a card game or mover, it's like a worker placement thing, like moves it for you, and you see it online, and there's less setup time and things like that. And so we did that a lot during the pandemic. And again, you have a little toke in between games and stuff, and it just makes a very relaxing experience during a time.
Absolutely.
I know for a lot of people it was pretty chaotic and
very stressful.
Going on. Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So trying to get a balance of all the stuff going on. I'm not sure how it affected your work, but I had to go in every day with a mask and pretty much changed how I was doing everything. That's actually when I
switched jobs.
Yeah.
I was going into the office because I was a government employee here in Maryland, and COVID hit. And at the same time, I took a new position for the COVID vaccine, and I've been there ever since. So at that same time, but I was hired as a remote worker. So I've been remote since COVID started, and I haven't been back to an office since then.
Yeah. I never was
going
able
into
to
an
remote
office every single day. I was on Fort Detrick, right here. So
okay, so still not
I was
that
on
far,
base.
yeah.
I was on base every morning at 6:30, and I never got home until about 5:00. And dude, that was my life when I was in Nevada. That's why I guess I'm so comfortable remote now. Is when I was in Nevada, when I took that job out there, Sierra Army Depot. If anybody listening knows Sierra Army Depot, it's out in the middle of fucking nowhere. Literally, there's nothing around besides one town called Susanville, and there's nothing in Susanville. So you have to either live in Reno, Nevada, which is where we lived, or the other side of Sierra Army Depot, which is Hurlong, California, that area. And so we lived in Reno. Every day was an hour and a half drive for me each way. So for the whole time we were there, I was working. I was leaving at 4 a.m. and not getting back until 7 at night. And that's why I guess, and for that, between that and I was traveling nonstop before that, right? That's, I took the job so I could travel less, but I ended up traveling to work every day. I paid for it. But that, being remote is like a blessing for me. I'm so tired of traveling, driving all that way. Now I can just I'm here. I can, I can get up and do whatever I want to do when I start work. But
Yeah, no, I feel very fortunate because I've lived in a couple different places forever since I've been at my current position in the mental health field, but always no more than like 10 minutes away. And prior to that, I was teaching and down in close to DC, and the commute there in the morning, you got to get on by like 5:45, 5:30 in the morning. And in the rain, take like 2 hours to go 30 miles. Snow, yeah, no, yeah. Pray for a snow day because then I didn't have to go in to teach. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that was a lot, and I was just like, I need to figure out. I did eventually move down to the Montgomery County, Maryland, for a year or two, and just to be closer to where I was teaching, and it still was a lot, and
keep my thoughts to myself about Montgomery County.
Yeah. But it was fine. But I had no time that with teaching your lesson planning, your grading, your cognitive errands. I was coaching at the time, and so there's a lot going on. And then I would try to find some time to game to imbibe a little bit, and very very rarely found the time. I'm just exhausted every day. But and I would try to get into these very competitive real-time strategy games, like there's leagues and stuff, and I would like stress myself out trying to like, oh, I gotta build this, I gotta do that, and like trying to hotkey things, and I would like really like pump up my heart rate from these games until I'm just like, why am I doing this? Like I'm trying to de-stress, but I'm just getting stressed out about something else. And so but now I to sort of bring it full circle, I play games that are generally a little less stressful, more like you get to think about it, or like explore this beautiful world, or not a lot of I'm trying to find someone and like dominate them and some other thing. Co-op. I was like, if I'm gonna continue the game and use it as a stress reliever, I don't to add stress to my life by trying to be the best in some games. So I've started to look at things that's like, oh, can this be something I just chill out with, smoke a joint, and have a good night? And so my habits have switched as I've.
Yeah, I'll say, like I said, I didn't start smoking again until 2021. She got her medical card. Let me tell you something about that. Coming back to cannabis after almost 20 years. I didn't know what the shit meant. I saw all these different things from terpenes, THC content, sativa, indica. It was all fucking Chinese to me. You know what I mean? I didn't understand a fucking thing because back when I left, it was just got it from whoever had it. And that was it. You just knew who to get a hold of and just get some. It was never, what kind do you want? It was here, take it or leave it. Do you want this or not? Seed stems included, especially. So, but that's where my research began. Mainly for my wife, but doing the research, I found all the benefits and even more information on how it could actually help me. So it's been a fun ride ever since, honestly. I enjoy, I've done so much reading and I can talk about it all now. It's where we're at with the podcast, but I enjoy trying new strains. I like to try to understand the effects it puts off. Does it match what they say the terpenes and everything are? I used to keep a journal on every strain that we tried, but it got to the point that, a lot of strains weren't available to dispose when you went back, because it was such limited supply compared to now. But, we used to keep a journal, but it just got too hectic. So now, though, I don't even have to look. I know what she likes. I know what I like as far as effects and whatnot. It's much easier now. But it was all new to me, essentially all new again to get back into the cannabis world. To actually start smoking or taking edibles, everything, because you had to learn. You don't want to accidentally take 40 milligrams of edibles when your first time ever taking it instead of 10 milligrams. You got to know what you're looking at. So
I've seen that before.
I know plenty of people that have been there and done that. I've had friends do it. I've told people don't do it and they still don't listen. I'm telling you all, you don't play with this shit. especially edibles. There's nothing to play with. Edibles will fuck you up.
Well, isn't that just a story that's told over and over again? Yeah, I took this edible, I took this brownie, I took this gummy. I didn't get shit. So I took another one and then I died. Right? Not literally, but but then I started, having a very bad time because
Then I went to space.
yeah, exactly. And I've heard that from so many people. I've seen it firsthand where it's like, hey, I'm going to take this, and then they get impatient with it because that edible comes into your system so differently than smoke will. Smoke will hit you right away. Edibles, they take some time. They got to go through your digestive system, and
and it can be different for every single person. It can be different for you every single time based off of what you've had to eat in the last 24 hours. It can hit you differently every fucking time. Listen, dude, I have taken edibles that I know exactly what milligrams they are, but it will affect me different almost every single time. Like one time it's perfectly fine. The next time, I'm in space. You know what I mean? So for the experienced people, you still go to space sometimes, even if you don't mean to.
Yes. So those of you who are out there that are wanting to experiment with edibles, I urge you, be patient with the effects. Don't overdo it because it is no joke.
When people say wait an hour, hour and a half, seriously, wait an hour, hour and a half.
Yeah.
I promise somebody's saying that just to fuck with you. It really can take that long to kick in. Will it always? No, but it can. Yeah. Even it can take longer. Like I said, if you've had a very like a high carb or a low processing style meal is like pasta and stuff, it's going to stay in your system longer. All those carbohydrates, dude, it could take a long time to kick in. But when it kicks in, especially if you're one of those people like Paul just said that, I ain't feeling nothing, I'm going to eat another one. It's going to kick in. It's going to kick in hard. Yeah. I've been there. We've all been there. It's fun sometimes, but not when you're the least expecting it.
Yeah. And for me, it hits me in like a wave where it's not all at once. Like, oh, I'm starting to feel it. Oh, I'm starting to feel more. I'm feeling good. It's my favorite way. It's also do better in your lungs. I don't know, because I'm pretty active, and if I start smoking a lot, I'll like feel it. And I was like, well, maybe even overdoing it, but
I like to take an edible, but then I like to smoke too because you get the effects soon. But then when the edible kicks in, it just makes you feel that. Go. So yeah, nowadays it's just like I said, I play PC games now. The latest and greatest titles I've done since I can hold the controller. I own two different cannabis businesses now. The podcast being one. And I guess it's considered a business because one day potentially make revenue. You have to like Maryland, but either way, and then High Level Hydro, being the other, where we sell everything there is from seed to harvest, so grow tents, lights, nutrients, everything. This became a passion for me, and I wanted to give back to the community and share, like my knowledge and everything, as well as gain knowledge in the process, man. So so far after just the podcast just starting literally this year, first week of January this year, not only have I learned a lot just from doing our own research that we put into every single episode, from the guests that we've, had on, it's just been one big learning experience, and I love it. I learn something new every week. I learn, almost every day. I mean, I like giving back to the people that do. I'll see people all the time on Facebook groups, saying they're getting a lot of people try to scam people on stuff and tell them they need certain things when you don't. So you all know tips and tricks, so share them.
Absolutely, yeah. I some folks in the cannabis industry, and the best way to learn something is to try to teach it. At least in like when I was a teacher, I've never learned more about whatever subject I was covering, ancient Egypt, American Revolution, than by talking about it and telling other people about the events and the people, all the history there. So it's definitely a powerful tool than just attending a lecture or something.
You were mentioning board games. Have you ever play card games like Uno or anything? My wife's an Uno freak. She loves playing Uno.
I'll tell you the story. So it was really hard to learn gaming in my family because a lot of people. But my sister is absolutely down for me anytime. It's like a special interest she has. So she has a Switch. I have a Switch. She lives in Seattle. but visits Maryland all the time. And when she's there, we'll fire up the Switch and we'll play Uno on the Switch. It's like a $2 game because it's been out for whatever.
God, I didn't tell
And
my wife about that.
yeah, and there's all sorts of achievements and levels and all that kind of stuff. Different backs. There are card backs that you can
Part of that
earn
psychology of gaming.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, ever since we've done that, I'm thinking like, oh, it's all the ways they hook you. But
Yeah.
but it's a lot of fun to do it online. Sometimes her boyfriend will join us, and there's definitely one. It's one of my favorite games to smoke to. And one time I was smoking and playing, and I had the final. I was like, oh, I just need to play like this part, and then this part, and I like ran out of time or pressed the wrong button or something. And I was like, I just lost this thing because I'm too goddamn high right now. This new game, I got so upset.
You like Monopoly?
Yeah, but I had a Star Wars Monopoly when I was little that had like a real bronze piece or something. Or the game was extra expensive because of these $1,000 coins that like were collectible or whatever. But that was I played that a lot. I played Monopoly like CD games and stuff. So I played that on the computer as well. And you watch the car go in different spaces and see AI through the ages.
We just bought a new Monopoly board not too long ago. It's a glass, glass.
What?
Everything. It's a nice little board. Yeah, it's a little fancy. Everything's glass. The house is glass. It was fun. It's a lot of. I think back in the past with families, a lot of family fights over Monopoly.
There are games that we have banned from our house. We had a game, never Monopoly. That usually would take like people lose interest in it. Like, oh, we played 4 hours of Monopoly today. We're maybe 75% of the way through, and then it's hard to get back to because it's a long game for everyone to be completely bankrupt. But we had a game. It's called
Especially if you play by the real rules with borrowing and everything else. If you try to do all that,
mortgaging properties,
there's always got to be house rules in Monopoly to make it go faster.
I think I may have completed 1 or 2 like full games, and I think that was because people got impatient. Like, all right, well, I'll just buy these houses, and we'll see. Go down these murder roads.
Who goes bankrupt first?
Exactly. Yeah, just by being like really reckless. But there's a game. It's called Gestures that is banned from my house because people would just lose their minds about not. It's a charade game, essentially. You have a charade.
I love Gestures.
Okay,
Dude,
so
I
you know
love
exactly
Gestures.
what I'm talking about. There's like the 5 cards, and then they'll fall if you don't pull it out in time by your team guessing your charade. And I just remember a lot of. So I'm the oldest. I have 2 little sisters. And
Gestures, right? Gestures.
Gesture, because I guess you're gesturing. Like that's
whatever. Yeah,
whatever it is. The charade game, and my sisters would just, if you didn't get their words, it would be just a fit, tears, yelling, and my parents were like, "I don't think we can play this game anymore for life." And so whatever day that was in like, I don't know, the late 90s, early 2000s, we're just like, nah, that is voting.
It had the little movie clip thing, right?
I think so. Yeah, exactly. It did.
Yeah.
Yep.
In that, and that's what you had to snap when the time ran out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That
was gestures.
Okay. I guess you're guessing the charade. So
Yep. Yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah. I feel like now, with a little bit of Cannabis too, would be perfect.
I think we need to get together and have a game night with
Absolutely
games.
Yeah.
Board games, card game, whatever it may be. Cannabis involved, whatever. Good old time.
Yeah. Absolutely, man.
Any final thoughts for the episode, man? An hour here on this.
Longer. Not really. I think that our levelers have maybe learned a little more about us now, where we're coming from, what the interests are, and keep hitting us up with your thoughts, game wise, Cannabis, anything that you want to talk about might be featured next week.
Yeah, I think we're going to try to get some new guests on the show. Guests on topics. Forward into that in the future. But there you have it, levelers. A journey into our past and how we got here to be hosting this podcast, essentially. We'd love to hear your journey as well. So, like Paul said, hit us up, social media at HLC Podcast 420 or on our website, highlevelchronicles.com. We'll catch you next week. We are out.
Thanks for listening to High Level Chronicles. See you next time.
Thank you again for listening to High Level Chronicles. Please help us grow by leaving us a review wherever you listen to us at, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, Alexa. Your reviews will help our show grow and help us reach a broader audience. Also, we are always looking for new show sponsors, so please reach out if you're interested. You can hit us on our social media or email us info@highlevelchronicles.com. Thanks again for listening.